Metal Allegiance show tonight at the Whisky had been booked already for several weeks, so we plan on coming and doing what Metal Allegiance does, which is we play our set list. We have a debut record that just came out back in September, so we play some original songs, we have fun. You know, kind of the way the whole thing came together was we're all guys who share the same record collection, and that's how musically our synergy and our connection started when we launched this a little over a year ago. But as we always do, we always have some guests come up to be a part of it, because that's part of the fun of bringing the allegiance of our metal community together. And then of course with Lemmy passing, it's certainly sad, of course, because we miss him, but you know, at the same time there's such a great musical celebration that that's how we're electing to look at this, because there's such great, I mean, the tunes are amazing, you know, and obviously there's a lifestyle of Lemmy in metal music. More recently, quite honestly, a lifestyle of him here on the Sunset Strip in Hollywood. You know, I moved here in 1983, 33 years ago, and when I met Dave and we started Megadeth, you know, Motorhead was this British group, you know, from over there. And for all of us, you know, American metal bands to get over to Europe to play was our crowning achievement. If we got to Europe, we were official. You know, that was the thing that really gave us, validated us as metal bands. And Motorhead, Venom, Iron Maiden, early Def Leppard, those were the you know, Diamond Head. These were the bands that were at the core of the new wave of British heavy metal. And to me, Motorhead was the original thrash band, and you know, Lemmy being the leader of that. So I think tonight is really all of us coming together to have a celebration of him, his life, and you know, thinking about Lemmy, he was 70 years old, which, you know, I'm 51, and people around me are dying of just natural causes, you know, of cancer, stroke, heart disease, you know, horrible things, of course, but you know, Lemmy made it till 70, which is, you know, rock and roll, that's like dog years. I mean, that's like, you know, that is a very long life, you know, and of course Lemmy exemplifies just everything about rock and roll, hardcore living, the lifestyle of a true metal warrior, you know, and he never deviated from his path, so I think he represents a lot. I'm already seeing it outside on the Sunset Strip, people walking past the Rainbow where they're doing the official memorial. I mean, Lemmy and I played very differently from each other. I especially notice it now as I'm digging into some of the tunes that I learned for tonight. You know, I have a very kind of tight, very precise method of how I play. That's the sound we created with Megadeth. You know, Lemmy created the Motorhead sound by a lot how he plays. He strummed. You know, as a pick player, he strummed, and you can really feel he strummed more like almost like an acoustic guitar player would strum on the bass. The notes are usually higher. I noticed with Lemmy, Geezer, and even Steve Harris, they generally tend to move up the neck and play, whereas to me and probably some of my American, you know, contemporaries, we tend to play bass lower in lower frequencies. So there's just some musical things about just the approach to the bass. But you know, Lemmy, especially the early stuff with Lemmy, Filthy, and Fast Eddie, you know, you really hear the connectivity between the three of them as a trio, and especially between Fast Eddie and Lemmy. Their playing is so just synchronized, you know, and that to me is really what makes a group great, is when everybody thinks, feels, and plays the music together like they did on those early records. Yeah, the core of Metal Allegiance is the both words. It's metal and there's an allegiance, you know, and that's about bringing the community together. And as we wrote the record, I mean, there was a certain benchmark that we set out initially, I think, to write a thrash record. But as we wrote the songs dictated to us. We would go, man, Phil and Selma would be killer on this track, you know, let's reach out to him. Mark Osageda, who you know, is a friend of ours in the Bay Area thrash community, also is like, man, this has got his name all over it. Same with the duet on Scars with Christina Scabia. It's like we had just you know, she's been the girl of the neighborhood to all of us in metal, you know, and so the singers kind of became obvious as we wrote the music to the tracks. And So this is not an internet record, you know, we didn't just phone this in and together, we recorded it together. It was very much a great, I think you hear that on the record. Yeah, and as far as the formats go, you know, we're metalheads first and foremost, so we love collector pieces. You know, vinyl's obviously making this huge comeback right now, so vinyl to us, you know, to have vinyl, to have like a patch for your denim vest or your leather jacket, I mean, those are just all parts of the metal lifestyle. So that was all part of the whole package and the vision of Metal Allegiance right from the very beginning. One guy that we thought of for a particular part on a track was Corey Taylor. And you know, Corey's very busy and gets invited into a lot of things, you know. There was a voice thing that just seemed like he would be perfect for it. And he was too busy and on tour and everything, so it didn't work out. But it's interesting because he's actually going to be with us tonight singing some Motorhead songs. So, you know, our community is very broad and inclusive. It's not an exclusive club. Unless you're not a metalhead, then you're probably not invited in. But you know, you know, I think as we go through it, I think the record is pretty broad. You know, it's very, you know, it's got obviously really heavy things like Gift of Pain with Randy Blythe singing on. All the way to things like Dying Song with Philip Anselmo, Wait Until Tomorrow, you know, which has Doug Pinnick. What's funny, We Rock is not we never played this song before until we recorded it for the record. And as we did it, the idea sort of, again, presented itself that it's like, let's get a whole bunch of our friends to sing and do cameos in the video and just be part of this whole thing, because it's really symbolized the broadness of what the metal community is and all the different vocalists and the people that could be a part of it to you know, to help represent. And of course, Ronnie James Dio. Every one of us is a Ronnie fan, either from, you know, Rainbow, Sabbath, his solo stuff. So that was the one track that probably was it was hard to pick a cover, because initially when we were making the record, we thought, do we make a record of covers? Do we write original material? So as obviously our original material really just came together really nicely. You know, to have a cover was a tough one to pick, and I think Mark Mengy suggested that we do We Rock, and it really, I think, summarized the whole community. You know, very two different worlds in a lot of ways. I mean, look, Megadeth, you know, Dave and I, you know, literally in this zip code formed Megadeth in 1983. We starved, we're hungry, we're homeless right here in these neighborhoods, you know, and grew up. In fact, I come back here to Hollywood and I'm like, part of me, my skin crawls. I remember that place. And then there's also other cool things, like, hey, that was where the first Megadeth rehearsal was, and I remember when we had good times here. But you know, starting a band, you know, that was an incredible journey for us to be on together, you know. So that's a connection Dave and I have in this lifetime together that can't be paralleled or equal with any other musicians who ever have come in and out of Megadeth, ever, you know. So Dave and I just kind of we have just sort of an unspoken understanding between us, you know, that it's kind of funny, we can almost finish each other's sentences on certain things. You know, Megadeth now is ultimately, you know, has become a very big arena and like stadium kind of band. So the production, the organization, the business of Megadeth is very well oiled, very well run. So there's things there that just are sort of operationally very together, you know. Metal Allegiance is, you know, we're a group of people who don't normally operate together on a regular basis. You know, we come together for these gatherings, and you know, in order to do this, you really have to have a certain headspace for it. You know, you gotta, you know, it's like, look, forget all the fancy schmancy stuff of your own band. We're coming together. This is about a musical, you know, collection, and you have to not get hung up on sort of some of the day-to-day stuff, you know, because we do. This is really the kind of first real. It's not, we've done tours together. This is the first kind of tour of routing of dates where we're sort of on the road together, you know. And when you get into day-to-day stuff with musicians, there's a whole other side develops, because, you know, from fans, we only see it from this side of the stage, we see them performing, but on the inside, there's a whole other kind of lifestyle thing that starts to gel together. And when that works, as it does in Metal Allegiance, it really translates off the stage. As you're building a group, it's important to be fully united together and not have people off doing random things. I think that takes away from the force of the punch. But at one point, you know, Megadeth disbanded in 2002. It was officially disbanded, and at that point, I mean, everybody kind of goes their own way to do their own thing, and that opened up. You know, that was after us being together for 18, almost 19 years together. That opened up a whole other season of my life where people called and said, hey, you want to write some songs? Hey, you want to play on a tour? Do you want to play on a record? And I had to learn to start saying yes to things. And I got to be honest with you, it was a scary little season of my life because I was so used to just all of us, you know, you kind of get comfortable being in a band together. It's the thing you like about it, which is everybody's got each other's back, you're together. And suddenly that went away, and I realized, man, it's every man for himself, and I'm kind of a man without a country to some degree because I didn't have my band anymore. And you know, part of me, it was a big growing curve, and it forced me to really step up my musical game, step up my ear, step up to the things I listened to. And at the same time, it was really a fun period, you know, from probably 2002, you know, up until, you know, when I came back to Megadeth on the Rest in Peace tour, 2010. But at the same time, you know, at that point, there's kind of a whole other synergy of things that were in place. And I find going out and playing with other people, and it's understood, look, I'm in Megadeth, make no mistake, you know, Megadeth is my band. But when I do go off and, you know, play some shows or cut a record or something with some other people, you know, today, in today's world and even in today's record business, that's much more understood, accepted, and just kind of part of the culture we live in now, you know, in this day and age. You know, a lot of people are doing a lot more other things outside of just their band, and to some degree, fans really, they like it. They don't look at it as, oh, there's problems at home, why is he out playing on something else? It's kind of like, hey, you know, Megadeth is a very iconic, you know, band now, and you know, I'm very selective about what I do. Trust me, Megadeth has to do a lot of things, and I say no to most of them. You know, partly out of time, partly out of schedule, and partly because for me it's important that you know, there are things that my fans would be, you know, engaged in, you know, and I think Metal Allegiance is definitely one of these that runs really concurrent with the Megadeth fan base and the audience, and again, it's understood that you know, I'm very much in Megadeth. Me and Frank Bello do something on the side as well, our Altitudes and Attitude, and you know, again, musically very different from what either Megadeth or Anthrax is, and our fans understand. Look, we are in our bands. We haven't left our bands to go, you know, pursue a solo career or anything like that. And I never grew up wanting to be a solo artist. I always grew up wanting to be part of a band. So, you know, to me, to be in Megadeth is very much that's where my heart feels where I should be, and I think that makes Metal Allegiance and all these other things work really well. And I get to come back to Megadeth with some new musical experiences, which I'd like to think my experiences that actually helps my sort of musical pedigree within Megadeth.